Forced to marry a feared widow in the Old West, the young man did something no one expected. The sun was setting over the dusty frontier town of Red Mesa, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. A thin wind blew through the streets, carrying the scent of coal smoke and desert dust. In the town's small square, a young man named Ethan Ryder tightened his coat around his shoulders, feeling the weight of both his family's debt and the rumors swirling around him. Ethan was barely 20, with bright, curious eyes that always seemed to look beyond the horizon. He had grown up fixing broken steam wagons and mechanical tools, dreaming of leaving Red Mesa and seeing the stars. But tonight, those dreams felt distant and impossible. His father had gambled with some dangerous people, and now, to pay the debt, Ethan was forced to marry Celine Blackwood, the widow no one dared speak to openly. Celine Blackwood's name was whispered in every corner of Red Mesa. Some said she had outlived 3 husbands, all under mysterious circumstances. Others claimed she wielded strange powers, gifts from a shipwrecked alien technology she had found years ago. No one really knew, and that was the point. People feared her, and Ethan had been told countless times to beware. As he walked down the main street, Ethan noticed the townsfolk staring at him. The blacksmith's hammer paused mid-swing. The bartender at the saloon stopped polishing glasses. Even the children playing with wooden guns fell silent. He swallowed hard, gripping the handle of his satchel tightly. He wasn't sure if he wanted sympathy or scorn, but there was no escaping. The Blackwood Ranch lay on the outskirts of town, beyond the canyon cliffs and a narrow dirt trail. It looked more like a fortress than a home. High wooden fences, reinforced with strange metal plates, surrounded the property. Smoke curled from chimneys, and the soft hum of unfamiliar machines echoed in the evening air. Ethan's heart pounded as he approached the heavy gates. A shadow detached itself from the doorway. Celine Blackwood stepped forward, tall and graceful, her dark coat flowing in the wind. Her eyes were sharp, scanning Ethan from head to toe, assessing him like one might examine a puzzle. "You must be Ethan Ryder," she said, her voice calm and steady. There was no anger, no malice, only a strange certainty. Ethan nodded, unable to speak at first. His throat felt dry. Yes, ma'am," he finally managed. "You're late," Celine said, though it sounded more like an observation than a complaint. "But I suppose it doesn't matter. Come inside." He followed her through the gates, noticing the yard filled with devices he had never seen before. A mechanical horse stood near the stables, its metal legs gleaming under the setting sun. A small wind-powered generator spun slowly, powering a strange lantern that hovered mid-air. Ethan felt a mixture of fear and fascination. Inside the house, the walls were lined with books, strange gadgets, and alien symbols. The air smelled faintly of oil and lavender. Celine gestured toward a chair. "Sit. I want to hear about you before we discuss anything else." Ethan hesitated, but obeyed. He had expected anger, perhaps threats, but not this calm, almost polite welcome. I'm a mechanic," he began. "I fix wagons, engines, tools, anything that's broken." Celine listened intently, her dark eyes never leaving his face. "And do you enjoy it?" she asked. "Yes, ma'am. I like making things work. It makes life easier, and sometimes it helps people survive." His words sounded small in the large room, but Celine nodded slowly. "Good," she said, "because in Red Mesa, survival is more important than anything else. You'll need that skill soon enough." Ethan didn't understand, but before he could ask, the distant sound of hooves echoed from the canyon. He turned to see a small group of riders approaching, their faces hidden by scarves. His stomach sank. Trouble had found them faster than he expected. Celine's gaze hardened. "They're here," she said. "The men who have been testing the town. If you think marriage was your only challenge, you're mistaken." Ethan's heart raced. I can't fight them. I'm just one person." Celine smiled faintly, almost sadly. "You won't be alone. But courage isn't about being unafraid. It's about acting even when fear is there." The riders drew closer, and Ethan could see the crude weapons strapped to their backs. He swallowed, realizing that his quiet life as a mechanic was over. His hands itched for tools, not guns, but he knew he had to be ready. Celine moved toward the window, peering through the shutters. She turned to Ethan. "You're going to help me protect this place. You'll see that what people say about me isn't everything." Ethan nodded, though his stomach twisted with doubt. He had expected a monster, a cruel woman with powers he could never understand. Instead, he found someone calm, precise, and human. Yet the danger outside reminded him that this was no ordinary marriage. The night fell, and the wind howled through the canyon. Ethan stayed awake, examining the strange gadgets Celine had around the house. Some were weapons, some were tools, and some, he wasn't sure. But each one spoke of preparation, intelligence, and a past full of untold stories. Hours later, the riders arrived at the gates. They called out threats demanding tribute or blood. Ethan's first instinct was to hide, but Celine calmly opened a panel on the wall, revealing a control system connected to the entire property. Ethan's eyes widened. "What is that?" he whispered. "A way to protect this home," Celine replied. "And the town, if needed. But it requires someone clever to operate it, someone like you." Before he could protest, she handed him a small console with levers, buttons, and gauges. "Follow my instructions. Trust me, and you'll survive this night." Ethan's hands trembled as he studied the controls. He had fixed engines and wagons, but never anything like this. Yet, beneath the fear, a spark of excitement grew. For the first time, he felt his skills might truly matter, beyond just fixing broken things. The riders were at the outer wall now, shouting and brandishing their weapons. Ethan followed Celine's calm instructions. He opened traps, activated barriers, and sent mechanical defenses into motion. Each movement was guided by Celine's quiet voice. To his surprise, the riders stumbled, falling into hidden pits or being repelled by mechanical arms. Ethan felt a thrill he had never known. He was contributing, not running. And Celine's presence was steadying, her confidence giving him courage. By midnight, the riders had retreated, grumbling and defeated. Ethan slumped against the console, exhausted but alive. Celine approached him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You did well," she said. Ethan looked at her, still panting. I didn't think I could do it. I
thought I would fail."
"You didn't," Celine replied, "and that is why you're here. You may have come reluctantly, Ethan Ryder, but tonight you proved you have what matters. Bravery isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, like fixing a machine in the dark just when it matters most." Ethan smiled, feeling a mixture of relief and pride. He had come expecting fear, cruelty, and a life he didn't want. Instead, he found respect, challenge, and a hint of purpose. As the first light of dawn crept over Red Mesa, Ethan gazed out at the desert. The town was safe, for now. Celine was no longer just a feared widow in his mind. She was someone he could work with, someone he might even admire, and deep down he knew that this was only the beginning. The frontier was harsh, the dangers were many, and his life would never be simple again. But for the first time, Ethan Ryder felt ready to face whatever the Old West or the stars might throw at him. The sun rose over Red Mesa, casting a pale gold light across the desert canyon. Ethan Ryder awoke to the soft hum of machines coming to life in Celine Blackwood's ranch. The night's events still burned in his mind. The mechanical traps, the fleeing riders, and Celine's calm, commanding presence. He had faced danger and survived. For the first time he felt a strange mix of pride and curiosity. Celine was already in the main hall, examining blueprints spread across a large wooden table. Strange symbols covered the paper, blending mechanical schematics with patterns Ethan did not recognize. The widow's movements were precise and confident, as if she had been doing this work for decades. "Good morning," she said without looking up. "Sleep well?" Ethan rubbed his eyes, trying to gather his thoughts. I think so. I just can't stop thinking about last night. I didn't expect all of this. The traps, the devices, the way you knew exactly what to do." Celine finally looked at him, her dark eyes calm but piercing. "I've had practice. You'll learn quickly if you pay attention. And you will need to if we want to survive in Red Mesa." Ethan frowned. "Why? Why are we so different from the town? Why do people fear you?" Celine's lips tightened into a thin line. She seemed to weigh whether to answer him. Finally, she spoke. "Because fear is easier than curiosity. People fear what they do not understand. And in this town, they understand very little." Ethan looked around the ranch. Machines, strange lights, hovering lanterns, all built and controlled by Celine. I think I understand a little," he said. Celine's expression softened slightly. "Perhaps you do. But understanding is only the beginning. You must act wisely, or knowledge alone will not save you." Ethan nodded, feeling both intimidated and inspired. He wanted to ask more questions, but a sudden commotion outside caught their attention. A group of townsfolk had gathered near the fence, whispering nervously. Their eyes were wide with both fear and curiosity. Celine walked toward the window, then back to Ethan. They are watching. They always watch, waiting for mistakes, for weakness. That is why preparation is key. Ethan swallowed, feeling the weight of the town's expectations. Do they think you're dangerous? Selene shrugged. Dangerous to some, necessary to others. Fear keeps them safe, sometimes. Ethan tried to imagine what it must have been like for Selene, living with everyone so afraid of her. She was not cruel or unkind. She was simply different. And unlike him, she had learned to survive in a harsh world that judged her without knowing her story. The day passed with Ethan learning the basics of the ranch's defenses. Selene guided him through levers, buttons, and traps, explaining each carefully. He noticed that the controls were more than just mechanical. They were connected to energy sources buried beneath the ranch, pulsing with a faint blue light. "What is this?" Ethan asked, pointing to one of the glowing panels. "Part of the ranch's secret," Selene said. "I discovered it years ago, buried near the canyon. It is powerful. Dangerous if used carelessly. But it has helped me survive." Ethan's curiosity burned. "Powerful? What kind of power?" Selene's eyes darkened slightly. "It's not for the faint-hearted. It can protect or destroy. And I am careful. Always careful." Ethan nodded, sensing that whatever secrets she held were not meant to be revealed lightly. He respected her caution, even as his curiosity grew. Later that afternoon, while Ethan repaired a small mechanical cart, he noticed Selene standing by a window, staring out into the canyon. He approached her quietly. "You think too much about the town," she said without turning. "I can't help it," Ethan admitted. "People whisper, they stare, they think you're dangerous. I want to understand why." Selene finally looked at him, her gaze sharp but not unkind. "Understanding takes time, Ethan, and it is earned, not demanded." Just then a low rumble shook the ground. Ethan froze. "What was that?" Selene's expression hardened. "Trouble. Outside the ranch. Again." He ran to the gate, seeing a small group of riders approaching. Unlike the first time, these riders moved with precision, as if they knew what to expect. Their leader raised a hand, signaling for silence. Selene moved to Ethan's side. "They are scouts," she explained, "testing the ranch, seeing if the defenses are still active. You'll need to think fast." Ethan's heart pounded. He had survived last night, but this felt different. He was no longer just following instructions. He had to anticipate, to act on his own. "Follow my lead," Selene said, her voice calm but firm. "And trust what you've learned." The riders drew closer. Ethan activated a small device he had been practicing with, sending a net across the path. One rider tripped, falling hard. Another tried to climb the fence, but was met with a mechanical arm swinging down to block him. Ethan's hands shook, but he remembered Selene's words. Courage is acting even when fear is present. By the time the scouts retreated, Ethan felt a new confidence rising in him. He had acted not out of fear, but purpose. Selene placed a hand on his shoulder, her eyes acknowledging his growth. "You are learning quickly," she said, "and that is good. The town may fear me, but you are beginning to understand the truth."
Fear is only the beginning of what people feel.
Understanding, respect, those are earned. Ethan nodded, feeling a sense of pride he had never known. He had expected Selene to be cruel, mysterious, and untouchable. Instead, she was patient, intelligent, and precise. She guided him, taught him, and now trusted him. As night fell, Selene led Ethan to a small observation tower near the edge of the ranch. From there, they could see the entire canyon, the town in the distance, and the dark outline of distant mountains. "Do you see it?" she asked. "The canyon holds secrets, and the ranch is built on one of them." Ethan looked carefully. He could see strange lights flickering beneath the earth. "Is that the energy you mentioned?" Selene nodded. "Yes. It is the source of what makes this ranch safe. But it can also attract danger."
You've seen that today? Ethan felt a chill.
"So the town isn't the only danger?" Selene's lips pressed into a thin line. "No. The town fears me because they do not know. But there are others, outsiders, who would kill for what I possess. And if you stay here, you will have to be ready." Ethan felt both fear and determination. He had come here reluctantly, forced by his family's debt, but now he wanted to stay. He wanted to learn, to understand, and to help Selene protect what was hers. That night, as Ethan lay in a small room at the ranch, he reflected on everything he had learned. Selene was not a monster. She was a survivor, clever, and powerful in ways he could not yet fully grasp. And the danger was real. Scouts, rival gangs, unknown forces drawn by the strange energy beneath the ranch. But for the first time, Ethan felt ready, not because he was fearless, but because he had learned to act despite fear. He had survived his first trial, and he had earned Selena's respect. Outside, the desert wind howled through the canyon, carrying the distant cries of coyotes and the faint hum of machines hidden in the earth. Inside, Ethan felt a strange sense of purpose. The marriage he had dreaded might become something else entirely. A partnership, a challenge, and perhaps an adventure he had never imagined. He knew the days ahead would be harder. The town would not fully accept him. Danger would continue to approach, and secrets would be revealed. But for now, he allowed himself a small moment of hope. Selene stood by the window, watching the horizon. Ethan realized she was not just a widow feared by the town. She was a protector, a strategist, and perhaps the only person who could teach him what it meant to survive in the harsh frontier of Red Mesa. And for the first time, Ethan Ryder understood that his life was changing forever. The young mechanic, once timid and uncertain, was beginning to rise to a challenge he could never have imagined. The morning sun crept over Red Mesa, casting long shadows across the canyon. Ethan Ryder stood at the edge of Selene Blackwood's ranch, his hands resting on the railing of the observation tower. Below, the desert stretched endlessly, dotted with jagged rocks and twisted cacti. The town slept, unaware that the danger was returning, stronger this time. "Ethan." Selene's voice called from behind him. He turned to see her approaching, calm and purposeful, her long coat swaying in the light breeze. "We have no time to waste. The scouts were just the beginning. They were testing our defenses. Others are coming, and they won't leave easily." Ethan nodded. "I understand. But I think I can help more now. I know how the traps work, and I think I can anticipate their moves." Selene studied him for a moment, then nodded approvingly. "Good. That is exactly why you are here. You are not just my reluctant husband, Ethan. You are my ally, and soon we will need all the allies we can get." For the first time, Ethan felt a surge of purpose. He was no longer just following orders. He was part of a plan, part of something bigger. And working alongside Selene, he felt capable of facing whatever dangers the frontier held. They spent the morning preparing. Ethan repaired mechanical traps, reinforced the gates, and even designed small innovations to slow intruders. Selene moved among him, offering guidance and advice, explaining how the ranch's energy systems could be used strategically. "You've learned quickly," she said, watching him adjust a trap. "Most would be too afraid to try, but you are learning to act even when fear is there." Ethan smiled faintly. "I'm starting to understand that courage isn't about not being scared. It's about what you do when you are." Selene's lips curved in a rare, brief smile. "Exactly. Remember that." As the day wore on, the distant rumble of hooves reached their ears again. This time, it was not scouts. It was a full gang, larger and more organized than any Ethan had imagined. Riders armed with advanced rifles and strange energy weapons rode in tight formation, heading straight for the ranch. "They know about the energy," Selene said quietly. "They are drawn to it. We cannot let them take it." Ethan felt his heart race. The stakes had never been higher, but he no longer felt paralyzed by fear. He had learned to act, to anticipate, to protect. And now he would do it not just for himself, but for Selene, the ranch, and the town. "Ethan, follow my instructions carefully," Selene said, "and think for yourself when needed. We will need both precision and creativity." The riders reached the outer perimeter. Ethan activated a series of traps, sending nets flying across their path and triggering mechanical barriers. The gang faltered, surprised by the defenses, but they pressed on, determined to reach the energy source. Ethan and Selene moved together, a perfect combination of skill and strategy. He operated the mechanical traps with precision, while she used the ranch's energy systems to manipulate the environment, lighting up pathways, creating temporary barriers, and guiding the intruders into carefully prepared ambushes. One rider attempted to climb the fence, but a mechanical arm swung down, knocking him off balance. Another aimed an energy rifle at Ethan, but Selene activated a shield that deflected the shot. Ethan felt a surge of adrenaline. He was no longer the timid mechanic who had arrived at the ranch reluctantly. He was part of a team, trusted and capable. During the battle, Ethan noticed a part of the canyon that Selene had emphasized earlier, the buried energy source. It pulsed with a soft blue light, and he realized its importance. "Selene," he called, pointing. "They're heading straight for the energy source. We can't let them reach it. Celine nodded. I know. That is why we must split. You take the traps. I will confront them directly near the source. Do not follow me unless necessary. Ethan hesitated, fearing for her safety, but he trusted her plan. He stayed at the perimeter, using his mechanical skills to slow and confuse the attackers. Each trap he activated, each lever he pulled, felt like a small victory. He was protecting Celine, the ranch, and the secret that could change everything. Meanwhile, Celine moved toward the energy source, her presence commanding and fearless. The gang tried to ambush her, but she anticipated every move, using her knowledge of the terrain and her abilities to outmaneuver them. Ethan watched from a distance, awe growing in his chest. He had expected a feared widow, a mysterious figure. What he saw now was a master strategist, clever and unstoppable. Hours passed and the battle reached its climax. The gang leader, a tall man with a scar across his face, approached the energy source, aiming to take control. Celine met him with calm precision, using a combination of gadgets and energy manipulation to stop him. Ethan worked tirelessly at the perimeter, coordinating the traps to block any reinforcements. Finally, the gang leader faltered, realizing that Celine and Ethan were not easy targets. The remaining riders retreated, leaving the ranch and energy source untouched. Silence fell over the canyon, broken only by the wind and the hum of the ranch's machinery. Ethan slumped against a post, exhausted but exhilarated. We did it, he said, barely believing the words himself. Celine approached him, her expression unreadable. Yes, but remember, Ethan, this was only the beginning. There will be others, and they will not be as predictable as this gang. Ethan nodded, feeling a mixture of fatigue and determination. I understand, and I want to help. I want to stay and learn, and be ready for whatever comes next. Celine studied him for a long moment, then finally nodded. You are learning faster than I expected. That is why I will trust you more than anyone else in Red Mesa. Together, we can protect this ranch, and perhaps even the town. Ethan felt a surge of pride. He had come to the ranch as a reluctant groom, forced into a marriage he did not want. Now he was part of a team, respected and capable, facing dangers he could never have imagined and rising to meet them. As the sun set over the canyon, Ethan and Celine stood together on the observation tower, surveying the desert. The battle had been won, but the frontier was still wild and dangerous. Yet, for the first time, Ethan felt that he could face it. Celine's eyes softened slightly as she looked at him. You surprised me today, Ethan. You acted with courage, intelligence, and heart. That is something few possess. Ethan smiled, feeling a warmth he had not known before. I learned from the best, he said. Celine allowed herself a brief, rare smile. Perhaps. But you also learned from yourself. Remember that. Courage is not given. It is earned, moment by moment. That night, as they prepared for the next day, Ethan reflected on the events. The ranch was safe, for now. The energy source remained protected. And he had discovered something even more important. Trust. He trusted Celine, and she trusted him. That trust was stronger than any weapon, more valuable than any machine, and more powerful than any fear. For the first time, Ethan Ryder realized that his life had changed completely. The timid mechanic forced into marriage had become a protector, a partner, and perhaps something more. The frontier was harsh, unpredictable, and dangerous, but he was ready. And as the stars appeared above the desert, glimmering like distant worlds waiting to be explored, Ethan felt that he was exactly where he needed to be. By Celine's side, facing challenges together, he had found not just survival, but purpose. The unlikely alliance had been forged, not by blood, wealth, or obligation, but by courage, intelligence, and trust. And Red Mesa would never be the same again. The desert night was calm, almost serene, but the stillness was deceptive. Ethan Ryder stood at the edge of Celine Blackwood's ranch, the soft hum of hidden machinery filling the air. After the earlier skirmish with the gang, he thought the danger had passed, but the quiet made him uneasy. He had learned by now that in Red Mesa, calm moments were often the prelude to chaos. Celine emerged from the main house, her dark coat fluttering in the breeze. She looked at Ethan with a calm intensity, her eyes scanning the horizon. They are coming, she said simply. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. Again? I thought last time would be the last. Celine shook her head. The gang is only a symptom. Others have heard of the energy source. They will come for it, and tonight they intend to take it by force. Ethan clenched his fists. He had faced fear before, but now the stakes were higher than ever. Not just the ranch, not just Celine, but the secret that could alter the town's future. He knew he had to act. "Ethan, I need you to stay here and manage the perimeter traps. Do not engage directly," Celine instructed. "Your role is just as important, but your safety matters." Ethan nodded, though a part of him rebelled at the thought of staying behind. He wanted to protect Celine directly, to stand beside her, but he respected her judgment. "I will do as you say," he said. The first sign of the attackers came as a low rumble across the desert. A group of mounted riders appeared, their energy weapons glowing faintly under the moonlight. Their leader, a tall man with a scarred face, rode at the front directing the assault. Ethan quickly activated a series of traps, gates, and mechanical barriers. Nets flew across the path, spiked panels rose from the ground, and automated arms swung to block the intruders. Each movement required precise timing, and Ethan's hands worked with speed and accuracy he had never known. Celine moved gracefully across the ranch, a blur of calculated action. She used the energy systems to manipulate the environment, temporarily blocking the attackers and redirecting their path toward Ethan's traps. Together they formed a synchronized defense, their teamwork flawless. But the attackers were clever. They avoided some traps and attempted to flank the perimeter. Ethan's heart pounded as he saw one rider heading straight for Selena. He shouted a warning, but she was already aware, moving to intercept with precision. The rider was armed and dangerous, but Celine used her gadgets and energy shields to block his attack. Ethan realized then that the battle was not just about strength, it was about strategy, courage, and trust. He had trusted Celine before, and now she trusted him to control the perimeter, to keep the ranch and the energy source safe. Suddenly, the gang leader broke through part of the defenses and made a direct charge toward the buried energy source. Celine moved to confront him, but he was fast and armed with a weapon designed to disrupt the energy shields. Ethan's mind raced. If the leader reached the energy, the entire ranch would be in danger. He had to act, even if it meant risking himself. Without hesitation, he ran along the outer path, activating hidden channels of the energy system, creating a temporary barrier in front of the leader. The man stopped abruptly, caught off guard by the sudden force field. Ethan's hand shook, but he held steady, directing the energy with every ounce of focus. Celine seized the moment, disarming the leader and securing the area. For a brief moment, the attackers were confused, and the ranch gained the upper hand. But the danger was not over. Reinforcements were approaching, and the attackers regrouped, determined to seize the energy. Ethan realized then that the ranch alone could not withstand them. He had to do something unexpected, something no one would anticipate. He remembered the canyon paths, the old hidden tunnels beneath the ranch, and the unstable rocks he had noticed during the earlier days. A plan formed in his mind. He would lure the attackers into the canyon, using the terrain and the hidden devices to neutralize them without direct combat. "Celine," he called, dodging a stray shot. "I have an idea. I can stop them if I lead them into the canyon." "But I'll need to go out there." Celine's eyes widened in concern. "Ethan, it's too dangerous. You could be hurt." "I know," he replied firmly. "But it's the only way. Trust me, I'll keep them occupied long enough for you to secure the energy." Celine hesitated, then nodded. She had learned to trust him, and now she did so fully. "Be careful," she said. Ethan mounted a mechanical horse, its gears whirring as he spurred it into the desert. The attackers followed, drawn by his apparent vulnerability. He guided them through narrow paths and rocky terrain, leading them exactly where he had planned. As they entered a canyon corridor, Ethan activated hidden traps along the walls and floor. Rocks shifted, creating temporary barriers. Automated arms swung down, forcing the attackers into positions where they could do little without harming themselves. The leader tried to charge at him, but Ethan's quick thinking and the canyon's natural obstacles slowed him down. Meanwhile, Celine used the quiet moments to reinforce the energy shields and secure the ranch. Her calm precision ensured that the energy source remained untouched, and the town below remained unaware of the true danger that had passed so close. Ethan's heart pounded as he led the final group of riders into the canyon. The narrow path left them vulnerable to the traps and terrain. One by one, the attackers were forced to retreat or become trapped without the need for violence. Ethan's courage and ingenuity had turned the tide. Finally, the gang leader realized that his plan had failed. He and a few remaining riders retreated, leaving Red Mesa and the ranch safe. Ethan exhaled deeply, his body shaking with adrenaline and relief. Returning to the ranch, he dismounted and met Celine's gaze. She approached him slowly, her expression unreadable at first, then softening into a rare smile. "You did it," she said quietly. "You acted with courage, intelligence, and selflessness. I never expected this from a young mechanic forced into marriage. You have grown beyond my expectations, Ethan." Ethan blushed slightly, feeling both pride and humility. I did what I had to do. For you, for the ranch. For everyone." Celine nodded. "And that is why you are different. Most would have waited, hidden, or relied solely on others. But you acted, and that is what makes all the difference." For the first time, Ethan realized that the marriage he had dreaded had led him to discover something far greater: his own courage, his own skill, and his own heart. He had acted in a way no one expected, not just surviving but taking control when it mattered most. The desert wind whispered through the canyon, carrying the quiet echoes of retreating riders. Ethan and Celine stood together, surveying the ranch and the surrounding desert. The danger was over for now, but both knew that the frontier was never truly safe. Celine placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder. "You surprised me, Ethan. And, more importantly, you surprised yourself. Remember this feeling, the strength, the clarity, the courage. It will serve you well in the days to come." Ethan nodded, feeling a warmth in his chest that had nothing to do with the desert sun. He had arrived at the ranch reluctantly, uncertain, and afraid. Now he stood as a partner, an ally, and a protector. The town of Red Mesa slept quietly below, unaware of the night's events. The energy source remained safe, the ranch secure, and the unlikely partnership between Ethan and Celine stronger than ever. As the first light of dawn touched the canyon, Ethan realized that his life had changed forever. He had acted in a way no one expected, not out of obligation, not out of fear, but out of courage and determination. He had faced the unknown, taken risks, and emerged stronger, earning respect, trust, and a newfound sense of purpose. Celine watched him with a quiet pride, recognizing that the young man who had arrived reluctantly at her door had grown into someone capable of facing the challenges of the frontier and beyond. And as the desert wind carried the scent of sage and dust across the canyon, Ethan Ryder knew that this was only the beginning. Adventures, dangers, and mysteries awaited in Red Mesa and the stars beyond. But for the first time, he felt ready, prepared, and confident. Together, Ethan and Celine stood on the edge of the ranch, ready to face whatever came next. Not as a forced marriage, but as an unexpected partnership, forged through courage, trust, and shared challenge. And in the quiet of the desert, under the rising sun, the young mechanic and the feared widow had found not just safety, but purpose, respect, and the start of a story that would be remembered in Red Mesa for years to come.